we are seeing such a surge in beautiful content, but how can I still tell a story and elevate my content? So lately I've been doing these visually appealing postcards, and I've learned and grown so much as a filmmaker and as a DP using these principles and techniques that I wanted to share with you all in this video. And the one thing that I think gets overlooked when we are talking about filmmaking. So let's get into it. The first thing that I want to talk about is the art of composition. Now, this is so important because with composition, everything else follows. Your framing, your colors, the way you decide to shoot, the way you see light, the way you do all of these things are tied in within composition. So what is composition? So composition is the art of arranging objects within your scene or within your frame. It could be the use of shapes, lines, color, depth, space, all of these things to create a visual and compelling image that tells a story for your viewers. Think about a picture. Your frame essentially is the picture frame. The composition is the details within that picture frame, how you're deciding to line up your subject, how you're deciding to do certain things within that image. So with that, we're going to get into what the first technique of composition is. The first technique I want to talk about is going to be my favorite, balance and symmetry. Now, this is a fave for me because I'm all about symmetry. And even when the Wes Anderson trend came about, a lot of people learned that, balance and symmetry was one of the biggest things that he focused on when it came to his composition. The takeaway with that is that not everything has to be the exact same on both sides, but there needs to be a nice balance on both sides. And so, for instance, when we look at me being in a museum and we see the shot of me walking through the museum, you see a sense of balance and symmetry on both sides. Even though one side is dark and one side is light because of how the light's coming in, the windows are very similar. The way that I'm walking is very similar. Because of that angle, it creates a nice, symmetrical, balanced image for you all as you see it, and it makes it so much more compelling. So when you are out shooting, find ways to create balance and symmetry within your image. The second technique I want to talk about is going to be your leading lines. Leading lines uses lines and shapes to direct the viewer's eye to a particular direction or subject. It could be buildings, it could be signs, it could be arrows, it could be lights, it could be you in a train station. For me, when I was at the museum, it was kind of the walkways that were allowing people to walk towards the center. So you can see the leading lines of each walkway and how at the end of the day, it comes to a center point, which is me. So it allows the viewer to actually focus in on me. And even as people are coming in, they're coming in such a balanced and symmetrical way. They come in at the exact same time on both sides. So at the end of the, and they're walking towards me, which then allows the viewer to focus in on me. And not even that, the angle that I shot it, right? That's a whole nother composition, is their angle choices. So being that I could have shot it from directly on, you wouldn't have been able to see the walkway. You would have been able to see the symmetry that came from that image. However, when I looked up and we saw that we can have an opening at the top angling down, that provided such a better composition. Don't always think that everything has to be straight on. It could be a high angle. It could be a low angle. Like, angles also play a part in how you perceive the composition and what the viewers are going to get from that as well. So being that we did shoot it from a high angle, it really added such an elevated experience for that particular shot. The third one is going to be, and we all know this and we've heard of this before, is rule of thirds. Now, the rule of thirds places your subject in the left or right third of an image, leaving the other 2/3 more open. You guys have probably heard of the rule of thirds or seen rule of thirds a lot in some of your favorite films, but this is probably one of the most popular composition techniques that you could use to make a compelling image. Now, in the shot where we were at Griffith Observatory, you can see the space and the depth and the dead space that I used to create the rule of third for this particular shot. And I put them on the left side of my rule of thirds, leaving all the sky and leaving this dead space on the right side. I could have put them in the center, but I don't think it would have been as compelling as actually using a rule of third composition. and I could have put them on the right. But to me, just like, again, seeing these things differently and enhancing how I look at things, it just felt right to put it on the left side. So rule of thirds, of course, is always going to be like one of the more popular cinema techniques and a fairly easy one to do using the grid lines that you have in your camera. And every camera has grid lines or rule of third grid lines or 6x6 grid line or anything like that. So definitely take advantage of using the grid lines in your camera to play with this cinematic technique. The fourth is going to be a frame within a frame. The frame within a frame is the use of visual elements to border a subject, often a doorway or a window, but anything that creates a border. It could be a doorway, it could be an archway, it could be a window, whatever it may be, to border your subject even more so that the viewer's attention goes to the subject. So for instance, being at home when I was in a hotel, I shot through the doorway in the hallway within my hotel room where you can see action happening, where I'm more in the room, and it created this really nice visual element. So it's a nice POV angle or just a different angle that you get. Even if I was to shoot someone through a window, it makes it seem as the POV from somebody on the outside of the window looking at this view. It doesn't always have to be a square. As long as you're creating some kind of border around the subject, that's a frame within a frame. Again, all of this just comes down to learning and being different and growing in like your artistry. That's really it. There's nothing new about anything that I'm talking about. It's just that like you're growing in your artistry and you're learning new techniques to add to your repertoire of being a filmmaker. The last one I want to talk about, and I'm putting them together, is going to be lighting and also color and tone. And I'm putting these together for a reason. So for instance, I've been shooting all of these with natural light. I wanted to get back to the basics and really play with how the best light, which is sunlight, was falling, right? When you don't have any gear, like any of the crazy gear that we talk about all the time, can you still create compelling content? Yes, as long as you know what to do with the light that is given to you. Natural light is some of the best, softest light that you'll get. Some of the harshest light, depending on when you shoot. But it's so great to learn from that. And that is going to help you learn lighting when you are using the artificial lights that we use to mimic or be motivated by sunlight. Lighting is so key in composition because the whole point of your composition is to evoke emotion and tell a story using these compositional elements. In lighting, you always are telling the story with how you light. So for instance, when I was walking at Griffith and the sun was setting, I passed a guy who was just waiting on someone, I guess, and the sun was setting behind him. Had I not seen what the light was doing, I would have just kept walking because I kind of did, and I stopped and I came back and I set up my camera. Didn't know the guy. I just saw how the light was reacting and how the light was beaming from behind him, and I decided to shoot that. And I love this shot. I love this silhouette. And I didn't really play with those colors, literally, when I went into post. That was exactly what the sun was doing. So me being able to see that because I'm growing in how I see light, I would have missed it. And so I think just learning lighting and just opening your eyes and always seeing what light does. When I was at that hotel, the way I saw light was crazy. The way light was coming into that hotel in different spaces and places that I was in was beautiful. And I just had to keep shooting. Even being in the hallway and seeing how the contrast between tungsten and daylight from the window. Me just walking through the hallway still created a sense of story because of the lighting. So always, always, always look every time you go somewhere, think about lighting. Don't always just want to shoot in the daytime. Also play around with shooting at night because that's honestly when it gets a little darker and you get that contrast, that's when it's really beautiful. If you're always shooting in the day, anybody can always shoot in day, but you don't get the contrast. You don't really get to feel it as much as you do when you can mix and mingle between day and night. So I would challenge you all to also shoot at night and really see what you can get when you do so. A lot of times we get so focused on just creating beautiful shots to get out there so we can get the likes. But at the end of the day, the goal and what sets you apart is creating compelling art. How people can see your eye. And with that, people felt art. They felt it was spiritual. They felt the story. They were learning stories and coming up with stories just by what they saw, which was fun. They were like, oh, this is telling a story from 15-second clip. So I would challenge you all, in order to go and elevate and create compelling art, learn these techniques and let me know your thoughts. If you like this video, please leave it down below. If you have any questions, leave them down below as well. If you made it thus far, add a picture emoji down below in the comments. Thank y'all again, as always, so much for watching. I really do hope this video helped, because this year my goal is to continue with these postcards and really just create art, something that I'm going to be proud of, not just something I'm putting out just to get followers or likes or views, but something that I can look at and say that this grew me as a cinematographer this year, this grew me as a filmmaker this year, and I can be proud of what I've been creating. So hopefully you guys can be proud of what you create when you add these elements and these techniques. I love y'all so much. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.